Okay, morning students. Today's chapter is photosynthesis, and here we are going to do today mechanism of photosynthesis. Means how plants manufacture food. Photosynthesis, we have dealt, the equation is there. Carbon dioxide is required, water is required, starch is produced, and water and oxygen is produced. This process of photosynthesis takes place in the organelle called chloroplast. So before we study the mechanism of photosynthesis, I think so we must better know the structure of a chloroplast. Chloroplast contains sac-like structure inside called thylakoid. These thylakoids together forms the grana, and in thylakoid or grana we find chlorophyll, which is very essential for photosynthesis. Then we find the fluid called stroma. Photosynthesis takes place in two stages. One, dark phase, and second one, light phase. So first we'll do the light phase of the photosynthesis. Light phase is also called photochemical reaction or Hill's reaction. It takes place in the grana of the chloroplast. The chlorophyll present in the grana has the unique property to convert solar and trap solar energy. The light particle absorbed by this grana is called photons. With the help of photons, the water that has been absorbed by the root has reached to the cell is split into hydrogen ion and hydroxyl ion. This process of splitting of water molecule into hydrogen ion and hydroxyl ion is called photolysis. Hydroxyl ions, and during this process of photolysis, energy is released. This energy released during photolysis is used for converting a chemical compound called ADP into ATP by using the energy released during photolysis. The process of conversion of ADP into ATP molecules is termed photophosphorylation. The process of conversion of ADP into ATP by using the energy released during photolysis is called photophosphorylation. The full form of ADP is adenosine diphosphate and ATP is adenosine triphosphate. This ATP is also called the energy currency of our body because it supplies all the energy that is required by our body is stored and supplied by the ATP. Now, the hydrogen ions that is formed as a photolysis, it combines with another compound called NADP, nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate. H hydrogen ions combine with NADP to form NADPH2, which is a reducing agent. Now this OH produced will split to form water and oxygen. Now see, during photosynthesis, oxygen is released as a byproduct. This oxygen comes from the water that has been absorbed by the plant from the soil. Now, next, water is also produced as a byproduct in the photosynthesis, comes from the water that has been absorbed by the roots from the soil. So as a result of light reaction, two important products are formed. These are ATP and NADP. You must know the full forms of all these three abbreviations. They generally ask the full form also. Now next, the dark reaction. The next is dark reaction, and it takes place in the stroma of the chloroplast. In the dark reaction, the NADPH2 will reduce carbon dioxide into glucose by using the energy from the ATP. So, as a result of photosynthesis, glucose is produced. Actually, this process is a very complicated process. We have done only the basic as required by the ICSC. Now see, in since starch is produced, carbon, and it requires carbon dioxide and water. Carbon comes from the carbon dioxide absorbed from the atmosphere. Hydrogen comes from the water, and oxygen also comes from the carbon dioxide. So this is the simple explanation of mechanism of photosynthesis. Now the probable questions that can be asked on this process, the diagram can come like this way. Identify the organelle. Organelle means the living structures found inside the cells. The organelle is chloroplast. Easily you can identify, you see the grana, thylakoid, chlorophyll. So it is, the structure is the chloroplast. Secondly, mention one way in which this process is beneficial to man. We have already done during photosynthesis, food is prepared and oxygen is released. So it prepares food for the animals and the life-saving gas called oxygen, and it helps to maintain the percentage of this oxygen in the atmosphere. Okay, name the phases of the process occurring in the part labeled as grana. Which phase will take place in this stage? As I told you, the light reaction will take place, and the phase that is taking place in the stroma is the dark reaction. And they can ask you the full form of NADP, ADP, ATP also. Represent the physiological process mentioned in 2 above in the form of a chemical equation. That means photosynthesis takes place, and if we represent it in a chemical reaction, here is the equation. As I told you, there's only one equation in photosynthesis. Now, carbon cycle. The removal of carbon in the form of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and return back of the carbon dioxide back to the atmosphere forms a cycle. So this is called carbon cycle. Now, how it takes place? Atmospheric carbon dioxide is utilized by plants for photosynthesis, as we know now, and after the death of plants, we get fossil fuels, wood and charcoal. Combustion of these items can produce carbon dioxide, which is released into the atmosphere. Plants are eaten by animals. During respiration in plants and animals, again carbon dioxide is produced, which is added to the atmosphere. After the death of plants and animals, the body is decomposed, and when decomposition takes place, carbon dioxide is again returned back to the atmosphere. This cycle continues, therefore it is called carbon cycle. So I think so now we have come to the end of the chapter.